It's like a new age thirst trap.
Yeah.
Like no longer have to pose shirtless.
It's a halal thirst trap.
You
Literally,
just have to get a cat.
getting a cat as a single man is
That's
a halal
pretty
thirst
funny.
trap.
That's actually...
Okay, are we live? Are we live?
I feel like...
Sarah, can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question?
Can I ask you a question? What accent is that?
If you
Please
got,
enlighten
if you got a feline,
me.
would you pimp her out for the gram? That's the worst accent.
That was pretty bad. I'm not gonna lie. No, so first of all, I had a cat. Anyone who doesn't know this about me,
Yeah, but times are different now. Okay,
we had Instagram back then.
You know what made me pose that question? I saw an influencer. Well, her cat. I think she's one, but her cat's an influencer too.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yo,
how much did
she
the cat
makes?
Make? Yeah,
she makes.
I saw that.
$15,000 a month.
I know, it's crazy.
Just off her cat.
If I had like a super unique.
Did her cat consent?
It's an animal.
Yeah, you still need everyone's consent. Okay.
But like if my cat was like super unique and cute, then yeah. Or if like he or she did cute tricks.
They don't have to be. That's the thing. They don't even have to be unique. But okay. I don't want to discount the amount of work that goes into it. Because sure, everyone has a pet, but it does take a certain amount of like skill and dedication to be able to like make content with that pet. Because like it is almost like a full-time job.
Duh. Yeah, and pets are not like humans. You can't make them cooperate. You kind of just have to.
Exactly. But like,
haven't you seen like it's a trend now? Like, have you heard of Montclair?
Montclair. What's Montclair?
the little black cat.
No. What?
So this guy, he got a cat.
Yeah.
And he named his cat Montclair.
I know about Fifi.
And Fifi. Yeah. Fifi's also where this guy thought Fifi was a girl.
There's literally a meta on the internet right now of like Muslim men with beards getting cats, like some single Muslim men getting beard with getting cats.
This guy also
and it's like
was
a specific
single,
look. When I say the beard, like it's a very specific look. There's a guy on TikTok, the first guy we saw that has Fifi.
Yeah.
There's another guy who got a white cat. I forget his name. I forget the cat's name. I think it was like, I don't know. I forget what the cat's name, but the guy literally sounds exactly the same as the first guy who had Fifi. Like exactly the same. And people are in the comments like, "Oh, y'all cats should date or like meet up or whatever."
Not you guys shipping cats. Like, that's getting weird. But yeah, no, Montclair was the first one that I saw, and it was this guy who was like, "Yeah, so I just got a cat today, like this little cute black kitten."
Yeah.
And she was like attacking him, so it was funny, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And then it became like the evolution. Like we just watched this cat grow up, and like,
but like
it was really cute.
Do you think that they even got that cat like with the intention of essentially like pimping it out?
No, I think
they did.
No, you know what I think it is? I think Gen Z treats TikTok the same way that millennials treated Instagram stories or Snapchat stories. Sorry. Do you remember how Snapchat stories at one point were like huge back in the day? I feel like Gen Z treats TikTok like that. Like,
but I think they know that there's like a financial incentive now. Like I feel like people know that like anything can blow up. And when I say the meta, do you know what a meta is? I think I've mentioned that before.
An environment?
No, a meta is like it's like the new trend. It's another way of saying the new trend on the internet. Like reading the Quran on TikTok was like a Muslim meta.
But it was non-Muslims doing it. That was like...
That's what I mean. It's like a Muslim meta that like within the Muslim community, non-Muslims were reading the Quran. And of course, a majority of their followers and a majority of their listeners were Muslim people for the most part.
Yeah.
So, and this is another one where single men are getting cats. And like, you know, they're playing with a cat. They're being all cute and they're showing... It's almost like... I feel like... This is going to be controversial, but I feel like the way they treat that cat...
I know exactly what you're going to say.
A lot of them women feel like, oh my God, if he was my man, he would treat me like this too. It's almost like they see themselves in the cat's place.
Maybe.
Like when you see a guy...
I don't think that personally, because first of all, I just have to say, it's the fact that it's even a trend now to have a cat. When I had a cat back in 2000 like 2011 or something like that. It was a long time ago. I had certain guys tell me, "Oh, you're never gonna get married because you have a cat."
Mm.
And I was
It's different when a woman
what?
has it, apparently.
I literally don't even know how, but yeah, so it's just funny to me. It's just funny
because
how.
it does say like I can see it from the female perspective why a man having a cat, especially when they see it in that light, may be like something that would get them to thirst for these type of men.
It's because
okay, go ahead. You tell me why. I was gonna tell, but you tell me why. You tell me why.
it's because the guys are showing themselves being affectionate towards something.
But also, it means a lot of other things, like they're responsible, they're willing to take care of something that's younger, and they can treat them well, that kind of stuff. No,
I wouldn't see it as that, like, because sometimes I read the comments and they'll be like, "Oh, I wish I was the cat," when the guy's like kissing the cat or whatever.
Yeah, I literally said that.
Yeah, and I said,
"Oh, okay,
I'm talking about the affection part."
Yeah,
like I feel like guys, it's
that's
like
a big part of it for sure.
It's like a new age thirst trap.
Yeah,
like no longer have to pose shirtless.
It's a halal thirst trap.
You
Literally,
just have to get a cat.
Getting a cat as a single man is a halal thirst trap.
That's actually pretty funny. Now that I'm thinking about it, like, yo, that's kind of true.
Yeah.
But power to you. I hope you find a wife if that's your goal with this.
Yo, low key, like half these people out here be like hiding a wife as they're doing a lot of these things.
Like who?
Huh? I can't say like a specific example. I'm pretty sure that there are a lot of examples on the internet of men, maybe not even only in the Muslim community, like in general, in influencer world, there are a lot of men who have either a girlfriend or a wife, like that they don't really mention. Like it's not exactly that they're hiding it, it's that it's almost like
it's a boundary.
But no, like it depends on what you're doing. If you're doing something where you're kind of like enticing someone of the opposite sex, then don't you feel like it's kind of disingenuous? Because you're trying to sell. I don't know. Actually, even that I don't exactly fully believe in, but I'm gonna go with it.
I think
just so I can get your response.
Say what you really think.
No, because like then again, it's all like you're all adults here. Like everyone has to, he's not responsible for what other people take from this and like how other people may form some type of like parasocial relationship with him, and he may even know that he might be aware of that he's doing that, but at the end of the day, if it's two adults, then he's not really responsible for how that occurs. But you know what? We're also taught, at least in Islam, that like our actions can affect other people. So like we're supposed to stay away from doing certain things because how it can affect the people around you. So you can make a case for both depending on if you're a good person or not.
Okay.
Hey, some people are just bad people.
No, but I think like if you're thinking about like a Muslim content creator, I think when you're thinking of things like evil eye and just like creating boundaries, some people treat their content creation as a full-time job. Yeah. Right? And so they just separate their home life from their content creation. Right? Like I saw this I think it was a snippet from like Chunks's podcast. Is that how you say it? Chunks's?
Chunks. Chunks's? Yeah, Chunks's. Yeah, go ahead.
Sounds so weird. When you have that realization?
Yeah, because technically it's a name, so it wouldn't be Chunks is a plural. But
whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Anyways,
okay.
He was talking about how he keeps his family private from the internet. Like nobody knows who his family is, and that if he was to get married, he would obviously tell her like what his job is, but he wouldn't put her online or on social media because he wants to just keep those things separate. And I think not a lot, but some Muslim content creators, if they're not doing the couple's content, would rather have to keep their home life private. Yeah,
there's actually a big example of that recently. I forget the podcast name, but there's 3 hijabi girls who have a podcast.
The Diary Room.
The Diary Room, exactly. And it recently came out, or one of the girls recently came out saying like, yeah, I've been married for like 8 months.
Yeah, there was a video from one of those fan accounts where they were basically, they tried to say like her and Sharky, who's one of like Chunks' like he's another content creator, I guess, that they were like getting married or something. So she's like, no, I'm married to somebody else. Yeah. And people were like, what? And so she came on to her own podcast and was like, no, I've been married for like a year and a half. I just didn't
like, but the thing is
anything.
it was 8 months, she said 8 months.
But
she said that I would have never said that I was married. Not never. She said maybe for like 1 or 2 years, but she just had to because of that situation.
Yeah, and like I'm thinking about it even for us. Like I know, our community has been trying to get us married for the last like 2 years. And sometimes I think about it and I'm like, oh my God, like if we actually do get married, like are we supposed to put our whole lives on the podcast? Because I feel like for us, we can control how much of ourselves we can put into this podcast. And if sometimes we want to give a little bit more, we do. But then if we want to keep it fully objective and like not include our personal lives, we can also do that.
Yeah.
But then, we've introduced the topic of like dating and marriage and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, we love you guys and we want to, I feel like you guys are part of us now, but do we still have that boundary where like, are you guys expecting us to now show like that kind of stuff?
But I don't think you would exactly give details about your relationship. You would probably just talk about the things that you've learned through creating that relationship and eventually getting married and all those things. Like, I feel like that's where it would be. But I don't know what personal details you would give. Like, oh, I had an argument the other day with my wife and this is how I dealt with it. Like, that's not, I don't think that would really.
Not even that. I think like, are we then going to start to get requests to like, bring on Amir's wife, bring on Sada's husband. Like we want to meet them too.
Yeah.
We
might get requests like that, and it really just comes down to whether you and your partner are comfortable with that, right?
Yeah.
It kind of helps that like this is really the only content we're putting out there. I feel like this would be a bigger question for someone who's doing like a daily vlog. Yeah. Like Aisha or someone who's their content is their life, like someone who has an Instagram page, right, where they're taking stories all day of where they're going, what they're doing, who's regularly posting on those platforms. That's where it becomes more of an issue. But if you're just on a podcast where you're in a very controlled environment, then I feel like that decision is a lot easier. Sure, there are a lot of people who still choose to hide it, but like you can kind of you can always just edit out the conversation if you feel like it's too much, or there's a lot of control you have in this environment.
That's true. And I'm not like stressing about it or anything. It's just like a thought. I'm like, are we gonna have to like share our lives?
Hey, we'll cross that bridge
when we get there.
When we get there.
Yeah, exactly. And I know we don't daily vlog, but I'm sure we'll eventually get back to casual vlogs here and there. Obviously, we've talked about the travel vlogs, and I think we just kind of made the decision that it just wasn't appropriate to put it out, like, given the state of, what's happening in Gaza and the rest of the Muslim world and the rest of the world in general. So, sorry guys if we disappointed and if you were waiting this entire time. I don't think. Maybe one day we'll upload it as the lost files.
Or we can make I feel like I was thinking we could just make clips from that content.
We could.
Yeah, I'm gonna work on that. We'll see. I'm gonna start putting some stuff together and see if that works.
I actually pulled it up. Like I uploaded all the footage. Yeah. And then I was like, I was watching it last night after or before our live, and I was like, damn.
You never talked to the camera once.
I did, but I was so awkward because you weren't there and Nabat didn't want to be on camera. Yeah. So I was just like, hey guys, like I felt like such an imposter, and I think even from that trip, and that was September. Yeah. To now, I think now I would. Like, I actually have a vision of what our vlog style would look like and how and what it could be. Yeah. That, like, I would have done it so differently now.
Yeah, like, and I feel like we should bring it, if we do and eventually do start vlogging again, like, we put our own twist on it. Yeah. Like, maybe make it like a podcast vlog style. I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas out there. But you know what I mean? Like,
we'll talk after this.
Yeah, exactly. We'll talk after this. We had a TikTok live, actually, yesterday. So usually... Just for people who are watching or listening to this, you can kind of catch us doing a TikTok live for the most part on like Friday nights. Yeah. And Sundays around like 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern.
Yeah, and if we film on a Saturday, like sometimes we film on Saturdays. It just depends on the vibe of the week. But we like to do a TikTok live after we film, and then we like to do one like sometime during the week. It's usually Fridays, because even though we'll tell it ourselves like it'll be like a quick hour long thing. I think I saw yesterday was like 2 hours and 56 minutes or something.
Yeah,
crazy.
Because we had actually the digital sisterhood. We had the digital sisterhood pull up just we weren't expecting her to actually come on.
I didn't even. So usually I can see who joins, right? I didn't see her name. I actually didn't even.
Someone
see that
else
she
said
joined.
it.
Yeah, someone was like, "Oh my god, not the digital sisterhood," and I was like, "What? Where? I don't see her." And then she commented.
And then we pulled her in, and we just basically went off for like an hour on like Muslim influencers or Muslim like people idolizing people within the community and sheikhs and all that stuff. Yeah, we went everywhere. But that was a really interesting conversation. So if you want to catch more conversations like that, you can just check out, follow us on TikTok and you'll find it there. You'll get the notification, hopefully.
Exactly.
But yeah, one of the topics we kind of started with initially was a video Sarah sent me on TikTok of Ali Dawa. He has a podcast where he he basically, the normal setup is that he has a bunch of men sitting on one side, he has women sitting on the other side, and he asks like a question usually related to marriage. And in this case, he said, do you think the man should help out with like the house chores? And he had a guy on there who's known for sparking controversy named Mahdi. I forget his last name. He, of course, gave like the answer of like, yeah, if I'm working my 9 to 5, I don't expect to lift a finger.
Wait.
What?
Wait. We have to give his full answer.
A husband should get involved in household chores, and we're talking about washing the dishes, hoovering, putting up the clothes, the dry. Just to understand, yeah.
If I'm the sole breadwinner,
Yes.
okay, and my wife's at home, brother, I ain't lifting a finger. I don't even want to know where the salt is. I'm not lifting one finger. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Allah has blessed me with wives that don't require me to lift a finger. But if I am pitching in and she is pitching in as well, it's unreasonable for me to also expect her to do now another part-time shift at home whilst I'm chilling.
So if your wife is working, and so are you, and she says to you, Mahdi, can you wash the dishes?
Yeah, I'm working 40 hours, you're working 40 hours. But my 40 hours is paying for everything in the house. And your 40 hours is going on your Mac foundation. Then no, bro, I'm not lifting one finger. Do you understand? Furthermore, if my 40 hours that I work per week covers everything in the household, okay, and you want to work, not only will I not be involved in the household chores, I will expect you to contribute towards the household bills.
See, and it's the way he answers the questions too.
Yeah, it's very, very condescending and what's the word? Misogynistic. And then that's not even the worst of what he said. Okay,
keep going.
That's not even the worst. So then the conversation continues. There's another clip that I saw. I think I sent this one to you.
No, I didn't get that one.
No. Okay, I think I was too mad to send it.
Okay.
So he talks about, I don't know if it was his first wife, second wife, God knows. Okay, his wife was pregnant, and so he's like, yeah, my wife went into labor, so I got her an Uber and sent her to the hospital. And he said that he went back to sleep. He went into his room, went back to sleep, and put on sleep sounds so that he couldn't be disturbed. And he was like, you got this. And then his whole reasoning behind it was that, men don't traditionally go into the labor ward. He's like, men can't help women the way that other women can help.
And like, it's like, well, you couldn't stay awake just in case something happened. Like,
he was like, you got this, boo. Good luck.
Nah.
And then the wife came home with the child. Like, what?
Yeah, there's definitely an issue. I feel like this is a lot more prevalent in the like UK for some reason, or in Europe. But I think that's just because a lot of the popular Muslim, quote unquote, Muslim channels. I don't know if they advertise themselves. You know what? That is the thing. Actually, I want to speak about after. We'll put a note in that. But
it's a pin.
A pin. Sorry, I'll put a pin in that. The thing is that when they ask questions like this, like the answers are pretty obvious because we do have the best example of the Prophet and what he did, and he was known for helping his wife. He was literally like sewing clothes back together, helping cook, helping with the cattle and with the goats that they would have. He would milk them. He would bring the food into the house. He would do all those while also leading the ummah. While also literally doing one of the hardest jobs, the thing that like literally like played so much of a toll on his mental health constantly, and he still had time to help out with family chores. So what is it like? First off, what's your excuse, and also where are you getting this opinion from? And a lot of times it's their opinion, yet they tout themselves out here as like speakers for Islam or like for Muslims, and almost like they're sheikhs. They might not say they're sheikhs, but they present themselves like they are.
I mean, I always say the religion of Islam is perfect. Muslims are not.
Exactly.
Right? So at the end of the day, if someone who is either not practicing or is just not a Muslim is watching this content online and they're like, wow, these Muslims are out of control. Oh my God. Like, come on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not every Muslim is like that. The religion doesn't always, like, the religion is one way and people will interpret it and you see it with Christianity and how much the Bible has changed because of people's interpretations of things. And, you know, just because the religion is perfect doesn't mean that all Muslims are going to be perfect. Yes, of course, like, people strive to be the best Muslim that they can be. But then you always have a little bad apple in the bunch. It's just how it is.
Yeah. But that's why, like, I think Ali Dawah got a lot of backlash for having him on in general because of his past.
I think Ali knew that he was controversial.
Exactly.
I think, and people are mad. Like, why are you even giving him a voice? That's why they're upset, right?
Yeah.
He actually made not an apology video, but like an explanation of like why he brought him on. I watched it, but I was kind of just like, he was saying a whole lot of nothing, you know? You know when people just talk to talk, like he was trying to justify, like, oh, I knew what he was like, and I don't regret bringing him on. You guys are just mad. Like, that's what he was saying. But he didn't actually explain like the reasoning. Are you trying to uncover that there are people like this and we should be warned?
Yeah.
What are you what's your motive for bringing someone like that on your podcast?
Yeah, unfortunately, like a lot of the channels like that where they ask questions like about marriage and relationship, they usually present like the worst of us instead of like the best of us, at least in my eyes. Especially the ones that tout themselves as a Muslim focused channel. Like, sure, and it can be an aspect of you, but don't come out here acting like you are giving some type of, his name is Ali Dawah, but like on the channels, like giving some type of like actual Islamic examples of like how we should be acting.
Yeah,
because if you have people like that on your podcast who are spewing stuff like that, and not giving the proper Islamic answer or giving the best examples, it's not only going to be Muslims who are watching this, is going to be non-Muslims, but it's also going to be younger Muslims who are less experienced or haven't learned the knowledge. So they're getting this firsthand from you. Like, they're hearing about this first from you, and they're going to continue moving on in life thinking that this is how how it's supposed to be practiced.
Like, this is how you should be.
Like, this is how you should be. Exactly.
Yeah. Like, and we touched on this yesterday where we were talking about how there needs to be more positive male influences in the Muslim influencer space. And there are some, but I feel like they get so heavily criticized. Like, there's what's his name, Yusuf Truth or something like that. He recently got married and then like got like verbally assaulted in his comments because he decided to post his nikah like thing on TikTok. Yeah, people were like, how dare you post your wife? Oh my God. And like, she's a content creator too, so like did you think she was just gonna hide? Like, I don't understand, you know? So like, I'm going back and forth because the way that I'm thinking about it is kind of just like, you know, you have people like Mahdi or Andrew Tate or whoever, like, you know, people that are very highly controversial, and they share their opinions and it gets people riled up. And then we talk about, oh, there needs to be more positive influences. And then there are, on the other side of the spectrum, there are influencers who, like Muslim couples who post couple content because like an example of this is a couple, their names are Grant and Jamila. And so they, like, her reasoning for posting their couple content is she wanted people to see what like a healthy Islamic relationship looks like how to grow within your, I guess, religiosity while you're married. And they're I think they're newlyweds too, to be honest. But people are still just like, ugh, like, do you have to post all of your content? And it's like, okay, like, I understand both sides, right? Like, some people are like, oh, be fearful of evil eye and don't put too much of your life out there. But then on the other side of the spectrum, if we're removing any sort of positive influence online, then all we get are the toxic ones, like these types of people. And then the other part of my brain is like, well, then why are we even looking at TikTok for influencers? Like, you know, look somewhere else. Is that even an appropriate place? But then you're thinking like, this is the time. These are all the thoughts.
You're like in a rock and a hard place essentially, because if you're trying to be a good Muslim and practice the deen as best as you can, a lot of times that might lead you to not being online as much.
That's true.
But then it leaves the internet kind of for the people who are not really the best representations of Islam to like kind of just take over the game. So you kind of need that balance, which will require people like this Grant and Jamila to come out here and start. Maybe that's not why they start posting it, but like at least they're adding some type of balance to the Muslim discourse online.
Yeah.
So I feel like you can critique both sides, but you kind of need the good examples to balance out the bad ones in a way.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I think we have to remember, like, you literally can't please everyone. Like, that's just how it is. I'm pretty sure in our last episode, there was a comment because we were talking about Harari idioms, and someone was putting Somali proverbs in the comment. And I think one of them has something to do with this, where you can't please everyone. And obviously, there's that one story. I literally saw this TikTok today. You know that one story that's told where it's like a father and a son, and they're supposed to be migrating somewhere with the donkey, and the father put his son on the donkey, and then people were like, oh, look at that.
Oh yeah,
that story,
the perspective story.
Yeah. And so, like, no matter what you do, good or bad, like you can never please every single person. And so as long as, especially if you're doing something that's good in Islam, as long as you have your sincere intentions, the only one that you should be looking to please, or I guess get acceptance from, is Allah. Like, at the end of the day, that's it. So
exactly. And that's my opinion on this whole Mahdi guy. But what
I just feel like I still kind of stand by what I said last night. I know he has, allegedly he has charges that are pressed against him. He's been divorced from that wife, but like, how can someone actually be like that? Like, I really think he's saying some of these things.
Oh yeah, that was another aspect of it, where you were saying like, oh, I feel like he's doing this all just to rile up the listeners and the watchers. But I was telling you, like, if someone tells you or someone shows you who they are, believe them.
And I do. Maybe that's how he feels deep down, but sometimes, like,
if that's how he feels deep down, should that not be it? That, like, what more is there?
Because I just feel like
he might be a coward. Maybe you're trying to point out that he might be a coward and he's talking all this boasting and everything, but really in the house he's like very meek. I want to believe that he's very meek, and he lets someone else boss him around. But clearly from the charges against him, that doesn't seem to be the reality.
I don't know.
Especially with the the nature of those charges.
I know. Maybe it's because I've never known someone to be that horrible. So
have you not seen what's going on in Not Real? Like, people are capable of very horrible things.
That's different.
But you're talking about someone's humanity in general. Like, you don't believe someone can really be that inhumane, or not in. I don't know if you would say it's inhumane, but like, so inconsiderate. But there are a lot of people who are inconsiderate.
There are. I guess I've just never seen someone like openly admitted in that way, I guess. Well, obviously, like, there's
been a lot of examples of people who are, like, Andrew Tate is probably one of the biggest ones.
But he's never said anything to this extent.
He said worse.
I never paid attention.
Yeah, you
to
don't
him,
pay. I think it's because you're just not on that side of the internet, so you don't hear about it as much.
Yeah, that's probably.
But
it.
There's a reason that they have that whole joke that they say, like, take all the mics away from the men of these podcasts, right? Because a lot of the times when men get into a room and start talking about women and marriage and relationships, they start saying things like he did,
But that's the thing. When you actually sit down and watch those types of podcasts and you listen to these men come together and just like talk for the sake of talking, and they have no clue what they're talking about, but it's just like a testosterone battle.
Yeah.
It makes you realize, like, these guys are all talk. Like, they don't even know what they're talking about. Not every single guy, of course. Some of them actually have substance that they're sharing.
Yeah.
But I'm speaking about this particular example of, like, that example that we're talking about earlier. Like, I just feel like a lot of them just talk for the sake of talking. Like, it's not even who they are. Like, they'll be lucky if they even get a girl's attention. You know what I mean? And they're talking as if they have, like, Bear Girls on the side or something.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely like that whole red pill thing I've been talking about for years now. a lot of those men, especially the like more high profile guys in the red pill community, they've been exposed, even though they talk about how they have like how to treat women and like how to get women and, you know, get your numbers up and all that stuff. They've been exposed to like be out there in the streets paying for women to come with them, and like people rejecting them and them getting mad and getting almost physical sometimes, and sometimes even getting physical
That's crazy.
with that person because it I guess put a scar on their manhood somehow.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So
and y'all out here listening to those type of people that have to pay for women, they can't even get one.
I'm telling you, it's like there's very few of the men online who are talking all this talk that really can back it up. And, you know, especially the ones who can back it up are even, I don't know if they're more dangerous because like now they're talking all this stuff and there's people who are still kind of falling for it. But you kind of, a lot of them are just cowards. You don't have to worry about them too much. Of course, but the thing we do have to worry about is it all comes back to the youth who are listening to them and they have their ears like they're like, they don't know any better. It's not their parents are kind of like just trusting them. They say, oh, they're watching, because I have a feeling that this is what's happening for the most part. The parents will see a guy with a beard and a kofia, or what do you call it? What do you call it? Kalansua, and a kamis on YouTube with a bunch of like religious books behind them. They'll see someone like that, their kid watching someone like that, but they won't hear it. They won't sit there to watch it with them. They'll be like, oh, they're just watching Muslim content. And then really it turns out to be someone like Mahdi who's spewing a lot of these things that aren't really rooted in Islam, but are more rooted in his opinion. Or he might be using Islam as a guise, but really kind of pushing his opinion in there as well.
I have to respectfully disagree.
Why?
I feel like maybe that was like our parents' generation because they trusted that we would make the right judgment call and watch, you know, good things on TV or whatever. But
what are you talking about?
I feel like parents of this generation, like millennials or the Gen Y or whatever they are, the one before us, they screen the stuff that their kids watch. Maybe if they're like teenagers, then they have free reign. But if they're a little bit younger, I'm pretty sure they screen what they watch.
I'm sure that there are people now. Like we had even your brother and stuff, like we had people out here who are more aware of these things, but like that's because we grew up mostly in like a very like nurturing household where we kind of were able to be taught by people who knew better and we learned from people who knew better. But I feel like there's still a lot of people out there who are coming from backgrounds where it's a lot of like toxic habits and family dynamics that lead to them not being the best parents or not being able to even, maybe they don't even have the time to monitor what their children are watching.
You think so?
Yeah, like that's a big reason that we have like incel communities these days.
What's
that's the best example.
Community?
These are people who are like basically men who are chronically online to the point that they can't even get women, so they learn to hate women.
Oh.
Or they create a community where they essentially hate women and believe that women are like the worst thing in the world, and it led to a lot of men committing mass murder. Yeah, a lot of those men that you see who's doing these shootings are from the incel community. Yeah, and that's because a lot of the times they're online and not being monitored by their parents. And the millennials are just getting into the whole parenting thing. There's still a lot of not boomers. What's the
Gen Y?
The generation above us, Gen Y. A lot of Gen Y who are in their 40s and
there's a Gen X.
Huh?
Is it Gen X?
Whatever the generation above us is, millennials is. Like a lot of them, they still aren't as internet savvy. Like your brother's like just below that, and also he has us to kind of keep him young.
Gen Y is actually what the correct term for millennials are. Gen X is the ones that.
Okay, Gen X. Yeah. So them like they aren't as internet savvy. So I feel like a lot of them, and of course there's also in the Muslim community specifically, there's a large immigrant population, right? And because of that, in the places that they came from, like how the internet works there compared to here is very different. So whenever they just see that, they believe that's a positive role model. And sure, from face value it is. And maybe your son or your daughter might emulate how they look. But a lot of the ideas that they hold may be like antithetical to what Islam is supposed to be teaching. Or what Islam does teach, I mean.
Maybe. Let's agree to disagree for now.
Okay. Well,
what do y'all think? I just feel like, okay, we're not parents, right? So we can't speak to it. But from what I've seen, and even if it's people that are actually part of Gen X, like a lot of them monitor what their kids watch. Like I can't see.
You're thinking of good parents.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know there are parents who, and just because parents are busy and working and don't have time for their kids doesn't make them a bad parent. It's just their circumstance. So I know those circumstances exist where, they might not have a mother or a father that's present with them that can do the screening. So yes, these things can happen. But I'm thinking overall generally. But yeah, I know there are instances where it happens, where they're going unmonitored and they can watch whatever they want, really.
And this is assuming that the parents do know better. Because there are a lot of examples of parents who don't know any better and actually do hold a lot of these toxic ideas on how a relationship should look.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
yeah, no,
you
I
really
totally
need your
agree.
coffee.
I should have drank coffee. I haven't had coffee all week. So
why?
I'm trying to get off caffeine.
Why? Caffeine's good for you.
Is it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Why do people do this? Why do people say, "Oh, I need to get off caffeine"? Like there's nothing wrong with caffeine.
I'm just reducing it because I feel like it, like as good as it tastes, I don't want to be so heavily
First
reliant.
off, caffeine does not taste good.
Well, the coffee that I drink tastes good.
Yeah.
Not that
you know who drinks a lot of caffeine?
Who?
People who work out. Pre-workout's full of caffeine, right?
Yeah, but you see the way you've made it describe, and the one time you gave me your pre-workout, I will never buy pre-workout.
No, but like for the most part, the healthiest people you'll know are the people who regularly work out, and a lot of those people who regularly work out take pre-workout, which has caffeine in it. They don't rely on it, but depending on the sport that you're doing, like, well, if you're just generally working out, don't really need it. But if you're doing like powerlifting or bodybuilding, it really does make a significant difference. Because you're dealing with like 2 or 3 times the amount of caffeine that's in a regular coffee.
Do you rely on it?
If I'm on heavy days, definitely.
You know what you should try?
What?
Salt and honey.
No, those are electrolytes. I don't need that's like a pre-workout, but it's easier because you can also add a lot more. You can add like other chemicals inside there, like as beta-alanine, which gives you a little bit of like a tingling feeling, but it like wakes you up. Has some other chemicals in there.
That doesn't sound healthy.
Huh?
That doesn't sound healthy.
I haven't died yet, so it's all good. I'm sure it's clinically tested. It's fine. Don't worry about it. People have been doing it for years. It's all good. But yeah, so
you can't hear me, but I'm shaking my head.
Let's talk about, can I talk about, so I want to talk about the major issue first, or not issue. This might actually be a positive story. So finally, I feel like it was because of a lot of us online constantly exposing what Not Real has been doing to the people of Palestine.
You mean Palestine?
Palestine, specifically in Gaza. So now South Africa, shout out to South Africa. Y'all hold us back. They because you know why? Because they know what it feels like, right?
They do know what
so
it feels
they
like.
officially charged Not Real for genocide. And actually the trial went on a couple days ago already. So South Africa came with its evidence for genocide, while Not Real came out with its defense, which was not really a defense. Literally, I think even a guy on TikTok noted down, all they could say was hummus, hummus, hummus constantly.
Yeah.
Like to the point where they literally said that South Africa, just by charging them with genocide, is now the legal leg or legal branch of hummus.
I saw that.
And I'm saying hummus because I'm still not trying to get suppressed here, flagged.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that everyone who needs to see this is going to see this, right? So, yeah, that was probably the biggest news. And, it was kind of like it's the smallest bit of relief for what's been going on in the past 4 months now.
Yeah.
October, November, December, January. almost 4 months now.
Yep.
And I think 92 days or something like that.
Crazy.
And you can tell, like, even the people on the ground in Gaza are getting tired and they're exhausted, and like they're constantly making posts every other day of like, just like they're getting mad not only at the people who are suppressing or oppressing them and attacking them, but also to just the world in general.
Yeah.
Being like, how could you let this happen? Like, we will never forget. And I feel like they do have a strong case, South Africa. And a lot of lawyers are saying like, yeah, this is like an open shut case. They're definitely going to win. Of course, Not Real said that like, even if they are found guilty, like they're not going to stop. This is all quote unquote for self-defense. There's actually the guy who's a spokesman for Not Real he went on like a British show, and they're like really like hounding him on this, and he was just gaslighting, and it always came back to hummus. Like, that's the only thing they know. The only defense that they have is hummus. And even if they do win this, I've heard that even if they do win this, like when it goes to some like general UN thing and they're supposed to stop, the US can still veto it, but they're less likely. People are hoping that they're not going to do it just because of how it looks, the optics. But at this point, we kind of know like who their alliances. They've always known what their alliance is with, but like how far they're willing to go for that alliance. To the point was like, who's running who at this point, right? And like, is it really that important for you to keep this one location just so you have some sight line on like the rest, to keep an eye on the rest of the countries? Like, is it really that important? Does it not make more sense to kind of start working with these countries?
Right.
Of course, you've oppressed them for multiple, for decades at this point. I'm not only talking about the people of Philistine, but like the rest of the Middle East in general. Like, I was thinking about this, trying to go on a small tangent. I was like, I bet you that if we had TikTok and all these other platforms at the time of what was going on in Iraq, like we would probably be shouting just as loud for those people.
100%.
Because when you see the numbers, and I kind of feel guilty for this because like they were able to kind of numb us to what they were doing there by constantly using the words insurgents, but never really defining what an insurgent was. And later years, you find out that those millions of people they killed, the quote unquote insurgents, were civilians for the most part, because they intentionally muddied the water on who they considered to be an insurgent versus a civilian. Yeah, there was this whole that trial was going on. There's no result just yet from when we're recording this, but you know, there's a very high chance that they're gonna be found guilty for genocide.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested in seeing what happens next.
We'll see. I don't want to say I have my hopes up, because I don't know how they're gonna hold the wrongdoers accountable. I feel like we're using every other word, but they're actual.
Well, like this is just to confirm that what they're doing, or to confirm that what they're doing is genocide.
You need to take it to court to confirm that it's genocide when we can see it with our plain eyes.
Because once it's confirmed that they are committing a genocide, then they would have to halt any actions that they are currently taking towards the people of Gaza, and like there'd be some type of other thing that I don't know what they have to do next. I don't know what the next step is. There's people who are smarter than us that know that.
Yeah.
But at least if it means that they're going to take the foot off of the people of Gaza, I'm all for it. And it's ironic because they're talking about how they're doing this because, you know, they're trying to save the hostages. I don't know how many hostages are left. Like at this point, those hostages, whatever the 50 that are left, like you've already destroyed all the infrastructure around them, right? So you're just putting your own hostages or your own people in danger. And also it goes back to that whole like human shield argument, because if you think about it, like what would you call it if a country took over a land and they occupied a land, and instead of and then they built a border around these people, essentially creating like a prison, and then put civilians on those borders instead of like putting military bases or like, you know, the things that most countries would do to protect a border. They put civilians there. What would you call those civilians? You'd call them human shields. So who's putting human shields here? Really? It's like,
It's
okay.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, and the whole argument of human shields is also a fallacy because you're destroying mosques, you're destroying churches, you're destroying synagogues. Apparently, you're destroying. I think the number was like 100,000 plus buildings, and they're like, if no country in the world has, even America doesn't have 100,000 plus buildings dedicated to their defense or to their military. So you're saying that Hamas has like this much resources? First off, yeah, they were under a blockade for the past 15 years.
Right.
How much resources would they have to begin with? And then you're saying
Were they saying that those are Hamas resources or that they were hiding there?
they were hiding there, or like they're using them as bases. And then of course it came out later that Al Shifa Hospital was not even, there was no evidence of there being a base there. Or
Yeah,
like
they
they were
just
saying
wanted
this was one of their major bases. They searched that place up and down, found nothing. They had that whole video, we already debunked that, where they said they found guns and weapons behind like a CT machine. What do you call this? Is it CT machine?
CT scanner?
CT scanner. And they found out that was just planted by the soldiers there. So, yeah, it's very, we can point out all the evidence, but, you know, South Africa thankfully has done that for us.
Yeah.
As a people, and inshallah, you know, something positive comes out of this.
I feel like there are like the ones, not that you would least expect, but I feel like we've been surprised in the last few weeks to see like who has been standing up for.
Are you surprised that South Africa would be standing up for us?
Not for them, but I was trying to segue into.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off there.
Thanks, Amir.
My bad.
No, I was just trying to like loop it into, you know, I think we've spoken about this, how Yemen basically has been trying to like reroute all of the ships that are going from.
Well, they're not trying to reroute.
Well,
them.
They are successfully.
They're forcing them to reroute by taking over only ships destined for it, not real.
Yeah.
So, like, they were, well, the Houthis specifically, who hopefully you can explain who the Houthis are.
Let me pull
They have been blocking because there's a canal or route that a lot of ships take to go through to Europe, and those ones they've been letting through. The ones that are going to Europe and other places that use that canal, instead of having to go all the way around to Africa just to get to Europe.
Right.
But if it was destined or their last destination was supposed to be not real, then they would stop it and they would take it over without casualties. Just to note that they would not kill anybody. They would just take over the ship.
And I'm sure like some of you guys have seen some of the footage. Did you see?
No, I didn't even see the footage.
Okay, I think it was. I'll find it and I'll send it to you so we can put it up here. But basically, to give you guys the rundown of what's happening, and I have my notes here. For those of you that think that we wing every single podcast, we don't. We do our research sometimes.
Sometimes.
So basically, what's happening is, as of recently, the U.S. and the U.K. are launching airstrikes onto the Houthi sites in Yemen. And so Amir just kind of explained who the Houthi, or no, you didn't explain who they were. But basically they are a like a militia group. They are named after their founder. His name is Hussein Badruddin al-Houthi. And they represent like a branch of the Shias called Zaydis. So basically they have about 20,000 fighters roughly.
Yeah.
And they run the west side of the country of Yemen. And so they're in charge of the Red Sea coastline, which is why they're able to control who can and cannot pass through the coast. Now, why are the US and the UK launching the airstrikes? It's because it's in response to what the Houthis are doing to the cargo ships or ships that are bringing in whatever materials that are linked to not real. I hope y'all are catching on by now, okay? And so the US and the UK are basically attacking the Houthis in Yemen because the Houthis have basically been forcing these ships. They've actually attacked a couple ships, or they've seized them, I think is the word. And so in response to that, other ships and other companies that are trying to bring their boats around have now basically been forced to reroute through South Africa. So instead of going through this way, they got to go all the way around like that. And so so back in November, the Houthis actually seized a ship that was carrying cars that was actually linked to an Israeli businessman.
Hey, we
Sorry.
don't use that word.
And what am I supposed to call him?
Not really.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, so because the crew on the ship was abducted, many of the shipping companies, like I said, they decided to go through South Africa like that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so the U.S. government retaliated. They killed about 10 militants.
Mm-hmm.
And then as of January 9th, I believe, the U.S. and the British warships, they shot down 21 drones from the Houthis
Mm-hmm.
and the missiles. And now they're basically threatening more retaliation.
Essentially a war.
Yeah, they're
Mhm.
basically threatening a war. And you would think that, and side note, the Houthis are actually backed by the Iranian government.
Mm-hmm.
I think in response to the Saudi government not really doing much. So,
Yeah.
I'm not going to speak on the Saudi government too much here,
Mhm.
but just saying,
Mhm.
these are the facts. So now you guys know why this is happening.
Mm-hmm. My favorite things that I saw recently, first off, is that I believe the U.S. asked Djibouti to be able to use their like coastline to like send rockets over to Yemen,
They're getting desperate now, huh?
and Djibouti's like, "Nah, we're good." And they're like, "Nah, you're not allowed to use our place." And then also in Yemen, they had another protest. Shout out to all the Yemen people. I think they said 5 million people showed up. Did you not see the video?
Was it 5 million?
I believe they said
That's-
5 million.
I saw the footage, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, yo, if 2 million people came out in Toronto for our championship winners like
True.
drive-through thing, they can get 5 million people like that, especially for this cause. But there was like 5 million people, and they were chanting like, "We don't care, we don't care," because essentially they're telling the government like, even if you threaten us, we don't care. We're doing this for, we're supporting these these militia groups for the Palestinian people, right? I'm sure that, like, I don't know about the past of the Houthis. Like, I'm sure there are a lot of people in that group who might not even agree with the underlying goals of the Houthis. But with this, they can find
They're
some
united.
unification. They're united
Exactly.
in this, right?
Yeah.
So that was like a really kind of like, after seeing all of the like destruction and despair, like this is at least some positive coming from this situation that we can kind of point to.
But
Outside of the also what's happening with the genocide case.
But if the Houthis don't back down and the US/UK government don't back down,
Mm-hmm.
we may be potentially looking at another world war.
But the thing also is that, like, first off, they're both hypocrites, like the UK and the American, the Prime Minister of the UK and the American governor's president, because they both have a history of saying, like, we would never start like some type of attack, or like we would never send warships or something to attack another country without the approval of our Congress or congressional approval. Yet, and I believe, Biden himself actually tweeted that when I think Trump did it at one point. I can't remember exactly for why, but he tweeted that, saying like, it would be a shame for a president to like make any type of military take any military action without the approval of Congress. And that's what he did with this case in Yemen. He didn't get any approval to do this. He just did it. Even though like the retaliation could lead to another world war.
Yeah.
So they're hypocrites for that alone. But it shows you that, like, you can threaten a population as much as you want, but if you have unwavering faith, no amount of pressure can make you back down.
That's not how I said it.
Flashback.
If I'm trying to think of how to
If
say
they
it.
have unwavering faith, no amount of threats will shake them.
Exactly.
you.
Yeah, sorry.
I got you.
I'm gonna cut that all out so say like I said it. I feel like
End of flashback.
that's the
feel
reason
like
she's laughing.
You need to keep that as a blooper, though. The way he struggled so bad.
Okay,
tell
but I
you're
was trying to make a
tired.
strong point here, okay?
And I got you. I just summarized it for you. I was trying to help you.
Yeah, but I'm
Sada
cutting that
with-
all out.
Sada with the assist.
No, I don't know what you're talking about. I came up with
Sada
myself.
with the. Don't leave me hanging. Get out of here.
But yeah, so that was definitely a pause. And I honestly, that was like a seeing their strength. And like this is also like a Muslim thing. I feel like a lot of this, the thing that connects all of those people, the people of Yemen and Gaza, like all is Islam, right? And I feel like that's why they're so unwavering in their support. So that should be what?
It's sad to see all of the other Muslim leaders just turn a blind eye.
I don't even know if I would call them Muslim leaders at this point. Like, of course, they say they're Muslim by name, but I know it's a controversial thing to say. I'm not saying that they're not Muslim, but I don't know if I would call them. I wouldn't call them Muslim leaders. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're not representative, just like Mahdi. They're not representative of Muslims and of Islam. Because Islam teaches us how to deal with these issues, and they are not doing anything in any way that should be done.
Do you think, hypothetically speaking, if a world war was to break out, do you think that at that point the Muslim nations would band as one?
No, I feel like they're too much cowards. Like a lot of the people who are running a lot of these countries are cowards in my eyes. So
it's crazy because honestly, Saudi has so much wealth.
Isn't Saudi the one who's been attacking Yemen for the past few years?
Yeah, low key they have been.
It's been Libya.
Have they been attacking Libya?
Oh
I'm pretty sure they were also attacking
it was Yemen. Sorry,
Yemen, because that's why Iran is backing them up, because they're against Saudi.
Yeah. So
politics.
Exactly, man. I think that's what they mean. That's what the West is hoping, right? That these countries will fight each other so they can steal the resources from behind the door, like take it from the back door. What?
Not to sound like those Islamic preachers, but like this is what the enemies of Islam want. They want to cause fitna and fighting amongst the Muslim nations, because when you are divided and you're fighting, there's no unity. That's when it's easy for them to attack.
Yeah, and I feel like this has been kind of like something has been building up.
Yeah.
Like this influence in the Muslim community has been building up, like even in the background, like from smaller ways of coming through and dividing the ummah, even like big things, but also smaller things to create division, so that when it came to unite, that there would be all of this infighting. I don't know about you, but my timeline, I haven't been seeing that much about like the attacks and the bombings going on in Gaza. For now, like of course I follow Mu'taz and Bisan, but I feel like I'm not seeing it as much. Maybe because I feel like it's because like at this point, northern part of Gaza is like completely just destroyed.
Yeah,
almost no people are left there, and everybody is kind of been shifted down to Rafah, which is literally like a small patch of land, like almost a desert at this point.
Yeah, I haven't seen. I'm not gonna lie to you. I took a little bit of a break of just consuming the content a little bit. I needed to, but I know that Mu'taz is still kind of posting on his story, because every few days I'll see people posting like, "Oh my God, if you see his story, it's horrific," and I get scared to even watch because I'm like, I don't know
you know what? I'm lying. I did see some stuff. Yeah. Like there was that one video that really blew up, and it got a lot of people banned from Instagram, or like their stories banned, or for banned from posting. I know it got him banned a little bit, but like there was a kid with like no emotion on his face who's wearing gloves, and he was like picking up parts.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah. So that one was like it shows you just how desensitized even the people are now, to the point where the kid is picking up parts.
His body
off the
parts
floor.
of his family.
Yeah, I don't want to say exactly.
Sorry.
You know, I'm not trying to ruin your lunch here, but yeah. So that was definitely like the reality situation, but it's a sad reality, and I know we've kind of used to it at this point. But you feel like it can't get worse, and you see things like that. It's like this is the worst.
And then you think about it this way: like if these innocent people aren't obliterated, if they're not like violently obliterated, and they have to live through this, it's almost worse than being killed. Because if you think about the effects that it has on children, where to the point where they're saying, if we're alive tomorrow, they can't even picture tomorrow, because they don't even know if they're going to be living or not. You know what I mean? And like I'm trying to think of like the mental impacts that it has on them. I don't think they will ever be normal.
Well, I feel like a lot of them. This is like the Muslim side of me. I feel like a lot of them are being supported by like Allah in that it's kind of they're because a normal person, especially from the West, I don't know, it's because we're a little weaker minded, but like, even from seeing a minute like part of what they saw, a small part of what they saw, you'd go mad, you'd go crazy. But they're seeing it every day like it's normal now. So I feel like he's protecting them in a way. So that's the hopeful part of me. I hope that after all of this, their minds are protected, and inshallah they can rebuild from all of this in a free Palestine or free Philistine.
Inshallah. I hope that's the case. It's just, it's sad when we say it. And you're right. We are very, very, very like weak in comparison to them. Everyone that's in the West, you know what I mean? No matter if you're the lowest of the low or the highest of the high, like we're in such a state of privilege that we don't even recognize. Like imagine if North America was considered a war-torn country and we lived like they lived. We'd lose our minds. And if an airstrike didn't kill us, we'd probably unalive ourselves. Yeah. Because we wouldn't be able to handle it.
Yeah, and I feel like that idea, or like them installing that idea in our mind, like, oh, like if we didn't do all of this, you would be living just like them. I feel like that also kind of makes people more willing to look the other way when their country is doing all these things around the world. They're like, as long as they're doing it for us to keep this way of life, they're willing to look the other way.
Who says that?
No, like it's like a subconscious thing. Like if you feel like you can continue living these comforts, but your country will have to commit a couple of genocides every couple of decades. Like that might, in some people's eyes, subconsciously, they're like, okay, that's an okay price to pay. Of course, we're not doing it consciously. You're not.
No, I know.
But like, if you were to sit down and like actually see what your country is doing, to be able to, essentially steal these resources so you can live the way that you live, then you would feel guilty for living in this land, right? So most people are kind of like more willing to just look the other way, or at least blind themselves or stay ignorant to the situation. Yeah. So they don't have to feel that guilt constantly. And I feel like because we come from what they consider third world countries, and we're also part of a Muslim community which is constantly the ones being attacked or the ones being made to look out like the enemy, we're more aware of this. So that's why we do a lot of times, you hear about people feeling guilt out here for living in this land and benefiting from essentially them going out and stealing the resources from your own people. So it's easier just to look the other way for a lot of people. Like what's happening in the Congo. We knew for many years, I've known for many years, that the Congo has been stripped of its resources, especially when it came to making electronics. Yeah. But a lot of people, it was easier for them to look the other way and be able to continue using their iPhones and their Androids and their computers and their laptops and their cameras, knowing that a lot of the stuff that are components are using the resources that they're stealing from that land, because it allows you to continue living the life you have and keeping those prices at the level that they currently are. Even though they seem like they're going crazy, like they could be a lot higher if they did it more.
They could be higher than they already are.
Definitely.
I mean, they probably can.
If these companies, because of capitalism, if they wanted to keep their margins the same, it would definitely, the cost for them, they would never want to take on the cost themselves, because God forbid they have to make less money that year. Yeah. Maybe they make $2 billion instead of 10 billion or 5 billion, right? Right. So they would usually just pass on that cost to the consumer, like what we saw recently with. This is like more of a local case. Maybe I think it even happened in America, where a lot of grocery chains, their prices were going up, and they were saying, "Oh, it's because of the supply chain and all these things." And then at the end of the year, we find out that they're making record-breaking sales and numbers and revenue. So there was no issue with supply chain or getting the resources. It was all just an excuse for them to make more money. And the government, of course, in maybe even America or in all the places in the world, are just turning a blind eye to that.
And actually, on that note,
What?
to take it even more local,
What?
I don't know if you heard this, but did you hear that the government is considering
What?
universal based income? Like the federal government is like really considering it now.
The federal government?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of fixing their extremely high taxation issues,
Yeah.
they're like, let's just give everybody $2,000 a month. So they're going to give Canadians, $24,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
And that is supposed to, and it's not supposed to replace minimum wage.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be like a supplemental benefit to basically help things be like, help you have a more like, you can actually have a livable income.
But I feel like they always kind of like tout that out.
No, it's like,
Is there going to be like some type of vote?
yeah, I believe
Is there going to be a
so.
vote soon?
I believe so, yeah.
That's why they're going to do
sent
that.
it to you.
They just do that on purpose. They come out saying, "Oh, we're going to give you guys money every month," and then they get all the people to come out and vote for them, and they're like, "Yeah, we can't get it passed."
Not that kind of vote.
What?
You mean like a vote, like an election?
Yeah, like an election.
No, I believe they're going to talk about it, and wherever they talk about it in the government, the House of Commons.
House of Commons. Yeah.
Is that real?
What? Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was.
What?
I'm having an airhead moment right now.
Honestly, it shows you. Even I think they purposely do that, where they don't really explain. Even though I think we had like a class called like civil. What was that class called
Civics
again?
and
Civics.
Careers.
Weren't we supposed to learn about all this stuff in that class, or was it history? I can't remember.
I don't know.
Yeah, but they think they purposely like don't really
Explain the government.
explain how the government works. Maybe
think
we're
they
supposed to learn
did,
this
but
ourselves,
we
but
probably just didn't pay attention.
yeah, you know, they should have explained a lot
Some
to
of us.
people, like what credit is and how
Yeah.
to be financially literate and all that stuff. But you know, I feel like a lot of times they don't do that on purpose.
But it's crazy because yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
It's better to keep the masses ignorant because then they
Yeah.
won't question things.
Like recently,
Uh-huh.
even in our own neighborhood, we had like a vote for the counselor, like a city counselor
Yeah.
or the counselor for our ward.
Mm.
And like, I think the turnout was like 20%, something like that.
No
It was
way.
small.
Did you
Because
go?
people, yeah, I went, but
You
like people
went?
don't care. Yeah, would
Aw.
you see? You don't go, right?
Hell no.
But that's the thing. These are the people who are making choices for us. These are the people that you are like. If you want someone in there who's gonna be speaking for your rights,
They're
and
not.
what?
And they're not. They're all puppets at the end of the day.
But
It's
these
just-
are the thing is that like, sure, you can keep saying that, but that's just because nobody cares. But once you start caring and start paying attention, then they have to start actually caring themselves. It's just hard. I know it's hard to get a lot of people to do that at once, but I feel like it's just something you kind of build up over time.
It's also because I think a lot of Canadians are ignorant to the politics.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I think they need to, and I don't like to use the term dumb it down, but they need to simplify the actual explanations.
Who's they?
The government. Or
Why would the
whoever's
government do
Sorry,
that
not
if
the
they already
government,
have
but
power?
I mean, what I mean is like making politics accessible for the average Canadian is what I'm trying to say. You know, making it easily understandable. Plus, we have a lot of newcomers in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if they have the right to vote. I think so. I'm not even sure. Maybe they need PR.
They have to become citizens first, so newcomers wouldn't be able to vote.
Okay, so them aside. But
Mhm.
like the Canadians that are able to vote,
Mm-hmm.
I think not everyone actually has the knowledge behind like, what am I voting for? Like,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? And maybe that has to do with just like, we've talked about Canadian broadcasting before
Mhm.
and how the channels aren't like, they're not popping like ABC is, for example, or CNN.
Mm-hmm. But even those channels are very biased in America
They are.
for one party or the other.
They are. But
Mhm.
I think if they made the politics more accessible and actually put it out there, and some can argue that it already is out there, but
Mm-hmm.
digestible for the average Canadian.
Yeah, but what's the incentive for the government to do that? Like, if they want to continue having the power and people not asking as much questions, it benefits them to have a less informed population.
Yeah, I understand that too.
I think we've spoken about this before, but it will require like an individual, like a movement of the people. Like, you can't really rely on the government to do that for us
Wasn't that
because
who,
they're benefiting from it, from us
wasn't
being
that-
ignorant to it.
Wasn't that like what that one guy was standing for? Was his name Chris Fade? Or something
Who?
like that? Is his name Chris Fade?
I have no idea who you're talking about.
He was like running, or he wanted to run. Hold on, let me search him.
Chris Fade?
No, wait. Chris Fade is Chris Fade is from.
Who is that? Why are you dying?
Because he's from Dubai, Blake.
Oh my god!
I don't know why I remembered his name. The guy's name is definitely Chris, though. It's Chris something.
Oh, the guy.
He was on Six Buzz a lot.
No, he was crazy, man. No. That
But
guy
what was his name?
That was guy like it was like a huge like anti-government, anti-vax, anti-everything, basically.
But he was a guy for the people. Okay.
Yeah, but not for us.
Who was he for?
When you say people, like I don't know if he was thinking about us when he mentioned that.
Who was he thinking about?
I don't know. I don't want to make any judgments exactly, but I just from his manners, from how he spoke, and like when I saw him and stuff, it didn't seem like he was going after us.
Didn't he go to your gym?
Yeah, he did. I never got approached. Okay, he approached all the other non-melanated people.
The Caucasians.
Yeah.
Chris Sky.
Yeah.
That's his name.
Yeah, but he kind of
close enough.
He fell off the face of the map, and he got like 0. I don't know. I don't even think he had a percentage of the vote.
Okay, but someone like Sarah Jama, who was part of the NDP party and then was dropped because of, what she stood for, which is insane. Insane, I tell you. But like I feel like is a woman of the people.
Yeah, I can see that, but usually if you actually want to make a change for the people, a lot of the times like you kind of just you're censured essentially. You're just like pushed off to the side. And it's like you're not sticking with the status quo, so we're just gonna put you in this corner, or they'll find a way, like Sarah Jama's case, to kick you out. Like I'm sure they probably already wanted to find a reason to kick her out, and that was one right there. Even though they later came out saying that they were in support of a humanitarian ceasefire or something, like whatever caveat they had for what type of ceasefire they wanted. And same thing for the genocide is going on. They won't call it a genocide, but they'll say, oh, you should stop the killing. It's like, okay, call it what it is.
So last week's episode, we were talking about, the episode was episode 120, her dad's arranging her marriage, ? And so you guys did not hold back. You really decided to share some of your thoughts. A lot of you had really sweet messages, by the way. So thank you to everyone who has been messaging me. I really appreciate the kind words. It's very sweet of you. Okay. Here's one. So this is from Lily and Rose 3092. She says, if a man can't provide, he shouldn't be looking for marriage. Sarah is right. That's exactly why I picked this comment, by the way.
And I have an opposite comment to that we can bring out here.
She said, Sarah is right. The bills is the man's responsibility. Once a woman helps out, the more that the man starts to take advantage of her. This is what she's saying. A woman shouldn't have the pressure of having a job or to pay half the bills, when we know deep down the household and cooking duties will always be a woman's role. I don't know if I agree with that, but yes. Okay. The perception, yes. Okay.
See, you're agreeing with her. You didn't watch you didn't read the whole thing. That's why. Okay.
So why does she have to do everything? Of course, if you expect to live a more luxurious lifestyle and your husband's earnings isn't sufficient, and you don't mind chipping in,
which is what I said,
that's up to the woman.
Yeah, which is what I said. Is that all right?
That's not what you said.
Huh? I said that, like, okay, if you want me to provide everything, it's going to require us to maybe live in a smaller space, but I'm willing to do that. But if you want a more luxurious life with a few more, maybe a 2-bedroom or something, then it will require some help from you.
A 2-bedroom is luxurious?
Yo, in Toronto, it's expensive out here, okay? But I'm just saying that require, and like, did she allow us to? There's another person who had like an opposite note to this. No, in our Instagram DMs.
Oh, you can read that.
Can I read that one?
Yeah, I told her that we were gonna read it.
Okay, so can I read? Should I keep out the names then?
Up to you. You can give her a shout out.
Okay, so we got a Instagram DM from friend of the show, Iman. Shout out to Iman, and she basically said, okay, so this is she had the greetings and everything at the beginning. She said love the episode, And she said, my advice to you both is to stay open-minded about who covers what expenses and continue to have conversations about it as you get serious with someone. Life will take you in so many unexpected directions, and flexibility is key. Obviously, don't settle for someone not serious about finances, but yeah, stay open-minded. My husband and I got married young and broke. Ha ha ha. I worked and covered a lot in the beginning, and as he finished school, I also got, I worked and covered a lot in the beginning as he finished school, but I also got to have 3 kids and haven't worked in 12 years. So alhamdulillah, things can work out in many different ways. May Allah bless you both with a good partnership and understanding between you and your future spouses.
Ameen.
So, sometimes like we said, you can grow together as a team.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
I think it's the it's all circumstantial, right?
Mm-hmm.
For her case, she got married when she was younger.
Yeah.
Like they were both young,
Mm-hmm.
meaning her husband was still in school at the time.
Yeah.
So in their circumstance, she had to work to support them.
Mm-hmm.
Once he was able to get to a place where he could support the family,
Mm-hmm.
she didn't have to work. What I was saying was that, because I'm thinking about it from my perspective,
Mm-hmm.
I'm 31. So if I meet a man who's 31 or older or younger, whatever, if I meet a man and he tells me, I don't have enough money to support you, so you're going to have to work and pitch in.
Mm-hmm.
Would I want to marry him?
Yeah, but if he said that,
I don't know.
that's the thing. If someone just says that straight up,
Yeah.
and doesn't give any caveat to that, or say oh, it's because I'm going to school, or because I'm working on a business, or I have this venture, this thing coming up, or I'm expected to, he's trying to grow something, then you'd be probably be more understanding. But if you just said that straight up and be like, okay, that's it,
Yeah.
I would completely understand if you would just be like, okay, then it's not going to work out.
Yeah. And it's not because I'm saying I don't have my own money
Mm-hmm.
and that I'm not willing to pitch in. Of course I am. I just think that why are you getting married if you're not financially able to?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't one of the requirements
But there's a case here where they weren't financially ready to, but they still got married because maybe you're already in this whole relationship and you wanted to make the relationship halal.
Yeah.
You knew that you guys wanted to be together, and maybe you weren't ready financially yet, but at least you wanted to make the relationship halal, so then you can get to know each other a lot better, and then start building together.
Yeah, I think that works when you're younger. But when you're at an age where you
If you're in our age, then maybe that might be a little harder to believe or expect. But I feel like especially with our audience, a lot of people are a little bit younger.
Yeah, if you're younger, definitely, and you're in your early 20s or even late teens, or I don't know how young you guys are, but if you're younger where you have time to actually start building on your career, I think be realistic with your expectations. I'm just adjusting my expectations to where I'm at in life, right? If I'm at a certain place in life and I'm trying to find my life partner, I would want them to be in a similar position to me or better, because that way we can continue to build. I'm not saying I'm just going to hop on the ship and you got everything and you're good. I'll just sit back and watch. If my help is required, of course I'll help out. I'm just saying don't expect me to be the sole breadwinner. I'm not going to be the one that's holding it down forever and ever. If I need to do it temporarily because of XYZ situation, okay, we'll talk it out. But to just expect it from the jump is kind of, for me, it's not for me.
Yeah, definitely. But that's always on an individual basis, right? Someone be yeah, you know what? I do want to. They immediately be a very, they feel maybe the way they show their love is by supporting. It is coming from the women's end. So
the woman supporting the man.
Yeah, not exactly 100% supporting, but being I want to pitch in. They're adamant that they want to pitch in.
And that's fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It was just a matter of, because I think when we spoke about it, it was I think you were asking we were asking if it should be 50-50. And I just feel not forever.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, if you're building towards something,
but that's you as an individual.
No, I think a lot of people share that sentiment.
Yeah, maybe in the Muslim community.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's always between you and your partner.
Exactly.
You guys talk about this. Make sure you communicate what you expect and what you're expecting from your partner. And inshallah, it'll all work out. Oh, and also shout out to the one listener in Omaha. Let me pull up your name here. Shout out to East J. Yeah, I said Omaha last week. Like, I wasn't expecting someone to be from there. And apparently we have a listener from Omaha. So shout out to you. But yeah, again, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to, if you're listening to something like whatever podcast platform, like Spotify or whatever, subscribe on there too. I feel like it would help. But if you've done all that already, thank you for listening again. And we'll see y'all next week. Bye.
Bye.